Hello everyone, thank you for joining me in the Hero Arts Mixed Media Live yesterday. I did finish up the gratitude tags after the live ended, and I wanted to walk you through what I did so that you can appreciate all the stuff that was added after and give you more ideas on how you can enhance your gratitude tags. So I'm going to switch my camera mode and show you how I finished these up. So this was one of the example ones that I had shared earlier. The only change I made in this one was that I added some white circles here with Posca marker, and I added some more details in here with the white dots. Very, very subtle things. Same thing in the leaf area over here, just to define it a bit more. And that's it. But this was with the texture paste that was colored, so you can see as I move this around that there's a sheen to it, even in the background, where this was all flattened texture paste that was colored with watercolors, just with my fingers. And then of course there's all of these raised bits, all of that texture from using the white paste, the white Hero Arts paste. So that was my example one that I didn't do live, but I had done prior to showing it to you. I didn't change this one at all. This is another one of those that I had done prior, but I thought I would show this here because this is a good camera angle and you can appreciate the raised edges over here. This was using the Hero Arts stencil and texture paste and watercolors running through the texture paste. Then a little bit of stamping over here, some gold dots over here, the Nuvo drops, and then adding it to another textured panel on the back. And then pasting all of that on white cardstock. So there's that one. Then this one was the first one I made with simple watercolors. This is your kind of to go on when you're traveling on the go. You can just very quickly paint blobs with your Hero Arts watercolors and water brush, and then just hand this out. So this is very, very simple. Another way of doing it is making bigger blobs. I call them blobs. They look like flowers ultimately, and you don't have to get very particular about how you do this. So this is another simple one for you to do. Then we did some on black cardstock, and this is the one that I had done next. So this was again following the same principles as the one that I had made prior to the live, but I made this one during the live. So this is on black cardstock, black mixed media paper, actually, excuse me, black mixed media paper. I had thought initially this was black watercolor paper, but it's mixed media paper. But it took watercolors really well. And again, the texture paste here, I had colored that with watercolors, added that on to begin with a tool, and then I just used my fingers, spread the rest of it here with the texture ink, with the texture paste and the reactive ink, and then added some gilding flakes over here, and then some gold wax edging over here, black stamp pad edging over here, and that kind of came together beautifully, I think. I just love the sheen and the texture in this, and just how beautiful this looks. This almost looks like something I want to frame. Then the next one we did was blobs of paint on watercolor paper, and I just loved how this one came together. This to me reminds me of one of those paintings in the gallery in Paris. I added, this is dried up paint from an acrylic bottle. I just added that because I thought it really went well with all these finger marks that I had just dipped my finger in texture paste that was colored. And then you can see the gold wax. There's just so much in this. And then I added some white marks here with the Posca marker. And I also started writing thank you in different languages. It's very, very subtle. So there's arigato here, there's merci, there's grazie, there's danke, there's dhanyavad, there's gracias. So you can have fun with these, some marks that I did with my pens, some stamping with a Hero Arts texture stamp. So you can really, really have fun with how you do these. You can play with them and make them as playful, as fun as you want them to be, or as artistic as you want them to be. This was on cardstock, similar thing where I had done the blobs, but I was trying to see how it looks on different substrates. As you can see, this looks very different. Again, I added, this is dried up paint from a paint bottle. I added white dots from the Posca marker on this one, just because I was experimenting and I wanted to see what would happen. and then kind of made it look like abstract flowers. There's a fair bit of stamping over here. I wanted to make sure the thank you didn't get missed because there were a lot of circles in this. I love the texture over here with the texture paste. Just some raised effects. There's the tendrils that happened as I dabbed the texture paste down with the watercolors using my finger, the smushing effect, if you will. And then there's the gold wax here at the bottom. I just love how this one came together too, and then just some edging with the black stamp pad to finish it off. I think it looks really, really glitzy and glamorous, this one. Then I did the same technique on black watercolor paper. This was my least favorite one when it turned. And I think this was my least favorite one because I had a vision in mind, and that's, what happens when you have something in mind, you end up being disappointed in yourself, which is why I say play, don't really, have an idea. But I ended up liking this a fair amount. I did have to work on this quite a bit after, so there were just these blobs. There was this black. I had initially put a strip of black thank you. I didn't like that. It wasn't working for me, so I tore that off. As I peeled it off, some of the paint and the texture paste came off, leaving this vacuum black here. And then I stuck my thank you sticker on there because that felt like the one place that was not chaotic, not busy, and the thank you would really stand out. And then to make it stand out even further, I used my Nuvo drops, but I smeared it kind of like one of those hot wax seals, like a stamp. So I did that, and I flattened this out with my fingers, pressed it down while it was still semi-wet. Not all the way, again, for that interest and that effect that you get, so it's layered. So all of these are the original bits that I did in the live, but then I added Stabilo pencils and distress crayons, and I smudged them around, basically trying to rid this background of any black splotches, because the only black I wanted was in this area. And then this is where I tore off the thank you tape. And so I added white dots with the Posca marker. So it kind of looks like it's flowing through and kind of connecting the thank you, holding it in place together. In a way, that's at least how I feel about it. Then I stuck the black mixed media paper on this white cardstock. So that's all I did, and then edged it. And then some dots over here as a border and on top. So just mixed it up a bit. And I actually quite like it because it's very different from the rest of them and just looks so unique. Then here was the watercolor panel. This might be the most unrecognizable of the lot from the live because I just went to town with this. I was adding some more watercolor to it. I sprayed water, and then I sprinkled on some embossing glaze, some embossing powder and glaze on this. And then I used my heat gun, and then I used some more distress crayons on it from, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, the Halloween collection from Tim Holtz, the one that has the flickering candle. I just love the shimmer effect of that. And because this was all kind of becoming party glimmer, glitzy style, just so fun, like a disco ball. I just love how this turned out, just so shiny, just kind of owning it. I also used a puncher over here to give it this shape, just to make it fun and different. And this, when I cut it out, this part came off, which I glued on top. So this one gives and then gives some more. There's just so much texture paste. There's watercolors, there's distress crayons, there's Posca markers, there's Nuvo drops. Like, this is gilding flakes, all of it. This is all mixed media. Mixed media royalty is what I'm going to call it, in all its glory. I just love this one to bits. Completely unrecognizable from what it looked like in the live, but if you saw me making it, you'll recognize it. And then inspired by this, what I did was the second panel. This was all one panel. These three were all one panel. So I cut this one out in the live, and then I divided the second bit of it into two, and then turned them into very, very different looking gratitude tags following the same principles of that first bit. So this one is on black mixed media paper. It's just stuck on, but this was the watercolor paper that had the texture paste used with the stencils. And then I added some more shine to it with the distress crayon. So you can see how when I blended the distress crayon on top of the texture paste that was already colored with watercolor, it leaves this beautiful marking behind. And it's not throughout. This, I dropped a bit of watercolor purple on that and just smudged it with my fingers, and then added a white heart with a Posca marker. And then just the same, whatever embossing powder fell off of this one landed on this one, and then I just kind of used the heat gun. So it has a bit of sparkle, a bit of glitter and glamour to it, but it's subtle. And again, all the details that I want you to appreciate that you can also achieve with just a little bit of play. And then this one reminds me of an old door, an old rusty door somewhere that holds the secrets to all things amazing. And I love the sparkle from the embossing powder and the embossing glaze on this as well. And then there's a little bit of texture paste holding on to a gilding flake right here. It's just, I just love the texture, the buildup of the colors, the crevices, all of it. And then I added kind of a vignette, a rusty feel to it with a brown distress crayon, just because I thought it would look really different and neat and nice. So here they are, all of the gratitude tags from yesterday's live, each one unique, each one different, each one basically using the same things. It's just watercolors, texture paste, and your imagination does the rest, except for these two. All of them have texture paste on them. All of them have watercolors. And I just had a blast making them, and I know I am going to love handing these out and seeing the joy in people's eyes when they receive them, because they will not be expecting me to just give it to them. So this is, again, one last bit of encouragement from me to you to go out, to play, to have fun, to make these gratitude tags any which way. Use your little pieces of paper as mini canvases. Try out things that you're afraid to try out on something that feels too precious. And then once it's all said and done, hand it out and make someone's day. Thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you for your kindness and your encouragement, and for being beacons of kindness out there in your corner of the world.